Good morning, everybody. I'm Andrew Ross Sorkin, and welcome to DealBook 2020. This is going to be a little bit different than we've done before. I want to thank all of you for joining us this morning. I know we've done this in person together over the years, but this year we're doing it virtually, and we hope to make it as interactive as we have in the past. We have a huge lineup of tremendous guests with some news-making interviews over the next 2 days, and we want you to be part of it throughout the next 2 days. I'm looking forward to it. There is a chat feature where I'm hoping you will be asking questions throughout these conversations. We'll be doing some polling and so much more. You can chat to me. I'll try to get to you myself in between, and we may even try to pull some of you on the stage throughout the day. We are thrilled to begin today's event with a remarkable newsmaker, and that is Masa-san. Masa-san is here, chairman and CEO of SoftBank is joining us this morning. He is joining us from Tokyo. We are thrilled to have Masa join us with us this morning. He, I should say, is one of the most consequential technology investors of his generation. Back in 2000, he invested $20 million in Alibaba. He says he offered that funding because of the twinkle in Jack Ma's eyes. His Vision Fund now owns stakes in everything from Uber to TikTok's parent, ByteDance. At age 16, Masa-san moved to the United States, where he learned English. He went on to study at Berkeley. And he had hundreds of inventions that he used to write in a little book. He called it his invention idea notes, one of which was an electronic translator. He later sold that for nearly $1 million to Sharp. There is so much to talk to Masa-san about this morning, about technology, about the future, and really what has been a remarkable roller coaster ride for all of us, including him, at SoftBank, which at one point, I should note, had lost about $50 billion of value, but is now up a whopping 144% since the bottom. He's pivoted the company, and there's so much going on, and we want to welcome him to this conversation live from Tokyo this morning. Masa, it is great to see you. Thank you for being with us.
Well, Andrew, thank you for inviting me. I'm excited to join the chat.
It's nice to see you again. I hope next time we do this, we can all do this in person. As I said, there's so much to talk about, but I'll tell you where I want to start the conversation because I think you were early on this. Back on March 11th, you went on Twitter for the first time in many years, actually, I think 3 years, and you wrote, "It's been a long time since I tweeted. I'm worried about the situation of the new coronavirus." You've always been the eternal optimist, so I want to know what was happening in your mind then. What were you thinking about, and what were the steps that you began taking?
Well, I have felt this is not just a flu that some people were talking back then. I said this could be very dangerous. This could infect many hundreds of millions of people around the world, and many people might die because of this. And I was so much worried that this is something that's going to change people's lifestyle, and it's a life-threatening thing. And I was very I started feeling this could be something much bigger than people may think. Back then, the beginning of March, people were still optimistic. I was starting to get nervous about it. So I offered the free PCR testing to 1 million people in Japan, that I provide all the funding and provide the testing kits. And I tweeted that. And so many people, most of them, the doctors on the street, they criticize and say, don't do 1 million people's free test, because that would discover so many people of the infection, and that caused panic to the society. So you are trying to cause panic to the society You're not the specialist. You are not medical doctors. You're amateur on this thing. Don't just leave us alone and shut up. So many tweets against me. Only maybe 1% people said that's a great thing. 99% people said don't do it. And it was so unpopular. And I said, after several hours, seeing all the tweet, I said, maybe this is something that you guys don't want, and I would shut up. So I changed the course, and people say, well, rather than the PCR testing, what people need shortage is a mask and medical gowns and protection and so on. So I said, okay, if that's what you want, I will still give the donation. I will give tens of millions of masks for free as my donation, and try to help medical doctors with all kinds of protective gowns. And so I donate many things. People appreciated that, but still people were criticizing me about the PCR test offer. I thought at that time people would change their mind. People would start appreciating my offer later on when situation become much more serious. Now people realize the importance of PCR test. They have to test, identify, and evacuate. So I think I should have more fight it even though people disagree. Maybe I should have fight it more. But at least right now I'm offering that service. I create a testing center, and I'm offering, to the millions of people now.
So you are now running the largest private testing facility, from what I understand,
Yes.
in all of Japan.
Yes, yes.
And Japan has done remarkably better, in truth, than so many other countries. How?
Yeah, it's lucky that even though the organizational effort, I think, is not good enough, but people on the street, citizens, they love cleanness. They all wear masks by themselves without forcing. Okay, so they are very conscious about this, and citizens' effort has been functioning very well.
How do people there, and how do you view what's happening here in the United States as the COVID cases continue to rise? We're going to have Dr. Fauci on, as well as the CEO of Pfizer, who's just announced the early test results of this vaccine. But what is the view from your perspective of what's happening in the United States?
Yeah, well, I think the technology of the vaccines and other things, solutions are coming from scientists, doctors. They're coming. One of the most leading countries, U.S. So people are expecting the benefit out of it, but still the severeness in the U.S. is pretty high. I'm very much afraid of all my friends in the state. I hope things get better quickly. I have so many friends in the state. I'm worried.
We're in the middle of a transition in terms of the elections in the United States. You went and visited President Trump during the transition last time. I'm curious what you make of what's happening here in the U.S. right now.
Well, I think there are lots of difference in opinion, but American people at the end is one of the smartest country, and there is solution coming with a vaccine and medical antibodies very soon. So I hope things settle down as quickly as possible. And in the long run, I'm optimistic, but short run, I'm pessimistic.
You're pessimistic in the short run. Let's talk about some of that pessimism, because one of the things that you said earlier this year was that at one point you felt, quote, you had peered over the cliff edge. And this, I think, was a comment not just about the state of the world, but the state of business and even some of your investments. What did you mean by that?
Well, I saw the possibility of a lot of economic crisis and affecting many people's job, many people's health, life, and also we have investment in many startup companies. They may not have enough funding beyond the other side of the Death Valley, and I was afraid that maybe some of them cannot make it. So that's what I was afraid. Regarding SoftBank situation, we have enough funding, enough asset, but I thought the cash is very important in this kind of crisis. So I created a target, our internal own target of getting liquidity and the cash on hand. So I said we're gonna create $41 billion, $42 billion of cash piling inside with liquidation of some of the asset. And we do the share buyback. We do enough funding for ourselves for new investment, but also to protect ourselves. So it's the first time in our history to liquidate many of the assets as quickly as possible. We overachieved that target by almost 2x.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you about. A lot of people were surprised at how aggressively you've been selling assets. And the question I was going to ask is, what do you want to do with all that cash?
No, as I said, the short run, I'm pessimistic that it's still increasing the second wave or third wave of the COVID-19 around the world. And of course, the vaccine is coming, medical antibodies coming, but who knows, in the next 2-3 months, any disaster could happen. We're just preparing for the worst case scenario.
But for the audience, I hate to be pessimistic given your optimism about life usually. What does that worst case scenario look like to you?
Well, look, before mass production, distribution of the antibodies, the vaccine comes, some major company could crash. The savior of those collapse of the domino effect could happen. Like a Lehman crisis, just one bank crisis made entire the banking industry shake up, and that made worldwide crash of the stock market. So anything can happen in this kind of situation. I think it's getting better with the news of the vaccines success of the early test, but I still want to be prepared for the worst case scenario. So that's why today we have now almost $80 billion cash in hand ourselves.
Are you surprised at how well the values of specifically technology companies have held up during this period?
Yeah, well, look, when people work from home, people stay home and study at home, what can they do? They have to still connect with people. Like this, we have to have a video conference, we have to have the education online and business in online, the purchase of the product online. So it's accelerating the the companies with that finished the digital transformation or in the leading position of those. They would be a beneficiary of acceleration of the change of the paradigm shift. So of course they may suffer a short time for the advertisement revenue and so on, but many of them are actually having record high net income.
So when you think about deploying that $80 billion, is that just a rainy day fund because you're worried about having to finance your own companies, or is that because you think there's going to be some kind of calamitous moment at which you would hopefully come in and swoop up and buy other assets?
Yeah, many optionalities, okay? If we can invest in these AI, front-end companies, if we can invest more into those opportunities, I will be aggressive. And it is maybe a better price now for the investing into unicorns because they need the funding. And of course, if our share price drop down, I want to buy back our own shares much cheaper and much more ownership to myself because I'm a believer of our own company. In March, our share price dropped down, I think, almost 70%. In 2-3 weeks, I said, "Oh my God, this is the best time for me to buy back our own share." And our discount to our underlying asset went over 70%, like 75%. So I could buy our own company 1/4 the price of underlying asset. I said, "Oh my God, I should buy." So cash was the best thing that I could have for all kinds of optionalities.
Masa, there were reports at one point that you were thinking of taking the company private. Is that still something you'd think about?
No comment. I cannot make comment on such a thing.
Does that mean it's still on the table, potentially?
Well, no comment.
Okay, let me try. You know what? I'm going to try a different tact on a different issue, but it's somewhat related. It's about taking a company private. Then I was actually curious if you really today would have wanted to. About 2 years ago, I don't know if you remember when Elon Musk wanted to take his company private, and I think there was a moment at which you were thinking about trying to invest in it. In retrospect, do you think?
I was one of the guys discussing with him, and if I had enough money, or if I had enough guts, or if I was smart enough, I should have invested in his idea, and I'm not smart enough, so I banged my head,
How much do you? By the way, on that topic, how much do you spend time thinking about mistakes that you made? There's some people who put them in the back view mirror immediately, and there's some people who study them for a very, very long time.
Well, first, there are two kinds of people when you make mistake. One kind of people don't want to admit that you have made a mistake, and those people try to make all kinds of excuse and justify what you have made the decision in the wrong way. And the other group is accept and admit the mistake. And I'm the kind of guy, I would rather, accept my stupidity and my ignorance, my, bad decisions, so that I can learn from my mistake. I don't need to justify my mistake. I accept it. Sorry, I was stupid, right? So that I can learn quickly, and I try not to make the same mistake. I don't want to remember again and again,
right.
But it's better to accept it so that I can become smarter.
Well, let me ask you about one thing that's been in the news over the past year, and you've called it a mistake. And so I'm curious what the lesson is for you. WeWork, of course, was something you've talked about being a mistake. Now that you've thought about it and spent some time trying to learn from it, what was the lesson?
Well, I think this is a lesson that Adam Newman himself is telling himself he made a mistake. And he's a smart guy. I think he admit he made a few mistakes. I think that he's a smart guy, he's an aggressive guy, he has lots of capability. He can convince people, he's a great leader. But he made some mistake. You know, any human makes some mistake. And in a total score, you know, his investment, his decisions, and I'm part of the responsibility of his mistake. So I still love him. I still respect him. I'm sure he would come back and do some great stuff in his rest of the world, the life. So I'm a big believer that someday he will be very successful, and he would say he has learned a lot from his prior life. But you know, again, we made a lot of loss in the investment in WeWork, billions of dollars, and that is my mistake. Okay, but luckily, we have some other hit. So in total score, we are still positive. You know, tens of billions of dollars. So I'm hopeful that other investment in our vision fund will make us additional profit.
Let me ask you a different question about investing, because there are a lot of investors that are on this call. One of the things that you've done this year, which is different for you, is you made some very big investments, equity investments in the stock market through options and other things. And I think there's a lot of people trying to understand what you're trying to accomplish, what you're trying to do there, because you've historically spent so much time talking about wanting to own things for the long term, and some of these were shorter term bets.
Look, what is SoftBank Group right now? SoftBank Group, we are investment company, and we are investment company, but only one focus, information revolution. That has been a case for us for many, many years. From the beginning of our last 40 years journey of SoftBank, we are only focused one thing, that is the information revolution. Sometimes we are operator ourselves, sometimes we were investor. So we invest into Yahoo US, create Yahoo Japan, and many other internet investment, including Alibaba. And so investment is not something new. It's for last over 20 years since the beginning of the past IPO of SoftBank, we start investing into a lot of internet companies. But we did not invest in the public company stock, as you asked right now. I said, you know, we are focused on AI revolution now as an investment company for the information revolution. Within the AI revolution, who will be the success, making success? It's not just the unicorns, but you know, all the big name like GAFA, they would also become a successful, the key successful company, most successful company in AI revolution. So who said I should not invest into public companies if I'm a believer that they will be a very successful company in AI? You know, unique, public or private, doesn't matter. I just want to bet for the AI revolution.
When you look at some of the big companies in the United States, the Amazons, the Googles, the Facebooks, you still want, you want to be invested in them today?
Yes, we are already invested in them, and I want to invest for many years because I believe they will be front runner, one of the most successful AI era's champions. Okay, I own a professional baseball team. To create a winning team, the number one team, you have to have new young stars, but also you have to have the best old stars, all stars. so that as a team, you have a very
Right.
strong team.
You had a chance to invest with Jeff Bezos very early, and you didn't. Why?
I'm so stupid. Don't embarrass me. I'm so much regretting my life. He and I were just one-on-one in a small hotel in Switzerland, talking a couple of hours, investing, and he and I almost agreed. And
What year was this?
before his IPO. So we were talking, SoftBank invest $100 million to own 30% of his company. And so the valuation we were talking was like $300 million. And he said, no, Masa, you're crazy. We're not 300 million company. He said, we are 350 million company. So the gap was only $50 million. And we were talking. And I said, okay, maybe you're right. Maybe we're close enough. And I would talk to my guys in Tokyo and come back to you. And I right after the trip, I went to talk to my guys, and everybody said, maybe that's crazy idea. Maybe you're right, but where is money? And after discussing 1 hour, I said, well, you're right, we don't have money. So we gave up that idea.
What do you make? One of the big issues in the United States around big tech right now is the idea that Washington wants to break up some of these big companies. And you've often talked about scale, how scale is so vital and so important to creating some of these platforms. Where do you stand on this regulatory environment? Do you think, and at the same time, you own lots of small companies, startups and the like, that are trying to compete against the big guys. Do you think that the competitive field is not fair right now?
Well, I think, depending on the execution that they do, sometimes they may be doing unfair stuff, which they have to correct it. I don't think they have been doing intentionally by accident, by mistake of some of their employees. They may have made a little mistake. They have to always behave themselves to be fair to all the participants in the industry. But should we have the pressure to break them up? I don't think so. Just being big and powerful, not necessarily evil thing. They are taking risk on R&D, and they are front end of the innovations. We should not kill the front end of the innovation. But of course, if the challengers get unfair treatment by them, then the environment is no good. Then of course they should be pointed out, and they should change their behaviors.
So when you look at the big FANG stocks, is there one company you're talking about in particular?
No, I don't say one specific company. I have a group of companies that I respect. Okay, I respect Jeff Bezos. I respect Mark Zuckerberg. I respect all the other, the founders and the CEOs. I respect Elon Musk. I respect Sundar, Satya, all those guys. It's amazing leaders of the innovations. Of course, Jensen is a great friend of mine with NVIDIA. I respect him a lot. Okay, so many innovation came from U.S. This momentum, this passion, energy of the innovation coming out of Silicon Valley and throughout the entire U.S. This is very, very important thing for the humanity. I think this is something that we should not discourage.
One of the things that the U.S. companies often say when it comes to this regulatory issue is they say, look, we need to stay this size because we have to compete on a global stage. We need to compete against the Alibabas of the world. What do you make of that argument? And also, what do you make of what's happening in China right now? Because it does seem, to some extent, that the Chinese government may be looking at similar regulatory efforts around some of the big Chinese companies.
Well, I don't want to say anything specific about specific countries. They have their own logic, and US, China, Japan, Indonesia, each country has different environment and different justice that they think is good for their own citizens, their own industries, and we should not easily criticize one way or the other. We should respect many different religions. We should respect many different ideology. But something important is that we should all work for innovation for the sake of humanity, like saving life of people, having fun for the people, having productivity for the people. As long as the entrepreneurs, the companies, they are fighting to the diseases or disaster recovery,
Right.
All these things. They should all be respected.
But do you worry about the idea of a splinter net, the idea that there could be two internets or multiple internets, given what used to be a very globalized world and what feels like a splintering of that?
Well, I'm still optimist about, people have to discuss, point out the issues, but at the end, people can talk to each other, find a solution to each other. I'm still optimist. At the end of the game, people
Right.
can still find a good ending.
What did you make of the Trump administration's decision to try to block TikTok in the United States? I know it's something you've invested in. You know this company very, very well.
Well, it's a sad thing if some service that people enjoy a lot get discontinued because of some political concerns of something that it's actually not happening, I believe. I talked to Emin, this founder, CEO of TikTok. He has no intention to have the privacy or national security damaging for the US citizens or Indians or Japanese or Europeans. He just wants to provide a good, fun, enjoyable thing. And so I hope, if there is any concern, of course, there is always a solution, like putting servers in each countries where the politicians may feel much more comfortable about protecting security, national security, and block to the outside. And, so there's always a solution. And like this time, I believe having the crowd in Oracle, that Oracle, I'm also a good friend of Larry Ellison, and Larry was telling me that he would make sure that people feel much more comfortable about protecting this national security and so on,
Right.
which is one of the good solutions. As a technical solution, there's always a technical solution for the concern people may have.
But do you think that there are real national security issues, or do you think this is just politics?
I don't think there was an actual risk that much, but I know that some people are still concerned. So if there's a concern, there's always a solution. Instead of arguing about, endless concern, if there's any concern, let's have a technical solution so that people can still continue to use it. I'm in the camp of the believing people's goodness.
Do you think that's true, by the way, of hardware, not just software? I ask because obviously in the U.S. there's been a big debate about Huawei. There was a debate about Huawei in Japan as well.
Yeah, well, again, it's the same thing. If there is any concerns specifically, there should be a discussion of how to mitigate that, okay? And there's always a technical solution without making it too much political, I think. Of course, people can have, the politicians and some people can have always concern. But if there is a concern, let's discuss specific technical solutions. And there's, as I said, there's always a solution.
A couple more questions.
Instead of hating each other. Right?
I have a couple more questions, and we're getting a lot coming in from the audience. So let me just ask you a couple quick ones. You're asked, how important do you think luck has been to your success? How different would SoftBank have been without Alibaba, for example?
So having meet with Jack was one of my luckiest things in my life. And I thank God and thank Jack and his management and employees. They work so hard to make the success. I'm a lucky guy to get to meet with those opportunities. But also in your life, if you stay for many years, tens of years, you have unlucky thing and lucky thing come, like a roller coaster. No one has always lucky thing. No one would have only miserable thing. It's a mix of event almost every day or every year. So I think the important thing is when the lucky thing comes, you should work hard to capture it. When the unlucky thing comes, you should work hard to solve it so that you can protect, you can survive. It's, half of the result is your own responsibility. If you right. spend 40 years in business, you end result is your own responsibility. That's my thinking, okay? Mm-hmm. Because lucky thing, unlucky thing comes, almost evenly.
We got a couple questions coming in here, Masa, about Bitcoin. You reportedly had bought into Bitcoin many years ago and then sold at, I think, close to the top, frankly. Bitcoin is now moving again, as you know. Yeah. Is it the future?
Well, one of my friends strongly recommended that I should invest at least 1% of my asset, my personal asset, invest 1% into Bitcoin so that at least you can feel something that you don't understand. I said, I don't understand. So, but he said, okay, just try out, don't argue, try out, put it 1%. I said, okay, maybe you are right, something that I don't know. So I would like to see how I feel. So I invest, I think a couple of $100 million, $200 million or something. That is like 1% of my asset at that time. And I was looking at the price, and every day I said up, down. So I said, this is no good. This is something I don't understand. But my mind share is somewhat affected. I'm at least looking at 5 minutes a day, how the price was. And I said, this is distracting my focus on my own business, so which I don't understand. It may go up later, it may go down later, but I don't want to spend 1 minute at least checking the price every day. So I said, okay, I would sell whatever the price. And I sold with some loss. Maybe I lost 50 million, I don't know, I forgot. But I lost some money and I sold it, and I feel so much better. It may be today, it's maybe more than the price I sold, but I feel so much better because at least I don't have to put my mind in something I don't understand.
So this is not something long-term you think is going to be necessarily the future. I know you're somebody who's thinking 300 years out.
Yeah, I think digital currency is definitely going to be useful, and with the security and so on, I think this is the digital currency will definitely be there. But I don't know what digital currency, what structure, and so on. I would rather focus my 300 years for something that I feel passionate, which is the AI focus right now. I want to stay only on that.
Well, let me ask you two questions, and then I know we got to leave you, but one of the questions I wanted to ask is specifically about AI. Back in 2017, you said the following. You said, we're going to have white-collar jobs and we have blue-collar jobs, but there's a new collar that's going to start. It's called the metal collar. And the metal collar will not only replace most blue-collar jobs, but many white-collar jobs too. So when they become so smart and muscles move, this is robots, what is the definition of mankind's job? What should it be? What's going to happen to replace many of our jobs? And you asked the questions, but I'm curious 3 years later whether you think you have perhaps an answer.
Well, I think it is accelerating to happen. The AI is getting smarter and smarter, as we see in the last 3 years. I think that this will accelerate. Many of the jobs that mankind used to do will be replaced. So we don't have to work 8 hours a day. We don't have to work 10 hours a day. Maybe 3 hours a day or 4 hours a day. Most people can still have enjoyable and productive working days and hours. And, all back 100 years ago, people had to work so much to just get the water every day, just to get the food every day. Now we don't have to do that. It's available 24 hours without going to the mountain or river. But many of the hustle that we still have today, like cleaning the street and manufacturing products, they will be all replaced by robots. So people can utilize the hours more human-like thing.
Let me ask you a final question. Also, this came in, I should tell you, a couple of versions of this came in over Twitter. Being an entrepreneur, it's the age-old question, being an entrepreneur, are you born with it or can you learn it?
I think anybody can learn. It's equal opportunity. Opportunity is there. It's just your mindset. It's just your effort that you want to go for that.
But what do you think it is about you? Because you wanted this so badly, even when you were 16 years old, that you knew it and you had that passion.
Yeah, well, look, in Japan, when you are born, when you grow up, you have to have the original home address that you register to the local government. Okay, I was born on a street with no street number. It was not legal place to build a home. So most other people, 99.99% people, live in a home with a home address. I'm born in a home with the official registration in the Japanese government book that I'm born and raised with no street number. Okay? So I start from nowhere. I wanted to become some meaningful guy, at least with a street number.
Well, Masa-san, you have become a meaningful guy, and you have a street number, if not many more. And we appreciate you joining us today doing this virtually. I hope we get the chance to see you all in person. I want to thank everybody for asking these questions, for participating and trying to make this as in person as humanly possible. Masa, before we go, I want to ask everybody in the audience to participate in a quick poll. And we're going to ask this question again, I think, tomorrow as well, in large part because we just had a conversation at some point during our discussion about whether there's a market bubble. And I thought we should ask our audience to find out what they think about that very issue right now. So real quick, if you go into the polling feature on the screen, do you believe that there's a market bubble right now? We're going to ask it. And I don't know, should we show the answer right now, or do you think what we should do is show the answer tomorrow? We're going to show the answer tomorrow during the Jamie Dimon session. So go answer it if you can. Masa, again, a big thank you. I will usually, when we do this at Lincoln Center, sometimes people even stand up and applaud. So I will give you a quick thank you.
I want just 1 second, okay?
Yep.
When we had a beginning of internet, the same question was asked. Is the internet a bubble? And actually, net bubble crashed in year 2000. But the peak of the net bubble today was not the peak. It was just the beginning of internet revolution. So the question it should be is it the bubble of within the short period, or is it the bubble in looking at 10 years or 20 years? Is this a bubble or not? The answer will be very much different depending on the time span that you ask and think. I think this is just the beginning of AI revolution, the tech revolution, information revolution. SoftBank value of the asset that we own has grown 157 times in the last 18 years. When the same period, New York's Dow has increased 2.7 times, Tokyo Stock Exchange 2.1 times, NASDAQ 6 times. SoftBank, from the crash, people thought this was internet bubble crash. I think this is the exciting beginning of the glory and excitement of the future of AI and the information revolution.
Well, boy,
that's my opinion. May have affected your poll, sorry.
Well, boy, do I hope, and I imagine we all hope that you are right. Masa-san, thank you so much for joining us. We may ask that question tomorrow again. We'll get you the answers tomorrow as well. We very much appreciate it. I do hope to see you in person very, very soon. And thank you again for joining us. And thank you all for joining us as well. We'll see you back here at 11 o'clock when Dr. Fauci will join us then. Thanks again.